Yeah, you'll see him on the screen. He's in red. But anyway, so I'll start with his introduction, and then as the meeting goes on, I'm going to mute everybody. But as the meeting goes on, if you have questions at any point, just pop them into the chat. Kanishka and I will both be looking to see any questions that are asked, and he'll be able to answer those in real time. So, uh, Gene, if you wouldn't mind muting everybody, and then I'll unmute myself, just to make sure there's no you know issues.
Hang on. I'm all over the place.
It's okay. Everybody looks muted. Oh, I'll tell you what. I'll just randomly. I'm muting Lisa. I did that manually. Okay.
Okay, got him.
All right. Perfect. All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of BNSME Programming, one of our monthly lunch and learns. My name is Matt Carlucci. I am the VP of Programming and Executive Vice President of BNSME. We are joined here today by many members of the programming committee, and of course, our illustrious executive director, as well, Jean Hellert, who on my screen is right here, but who knows where she is for you. Want to thank all of them for helping us put together all this awesome programming that we've done and continue to do. I will mention a couple pieces of programming that are coming up later on. But before we get started, I do want to mention one thing. On March the 29th, we have a really cool panel discussion coming up with some real awesome experts in marketing in Western New York. So check out bnsme.org to check that out for this panel discussion taking place at 3 p.m. on March the 29th. So we'll start by talking about Kanishka. Kanishka's venture into entrepreneurship began at an early age. When he was 13, his family had a business in Dubai that was struggling. And with the help of great mentors and, of course, the internet, he taught himself to do digital marketing and business development. And by the time he was 16, he was solely running a successful marketing and business development department for a company that did over $1.4 million in yearly revenue. After moving to America when he was 17 to attend college at the University of Buffalo, he continued to operate remotely as the marketing director for that company. He also started a drop shipping e-commerce product on Amazon, and in 2018 joined I might have the year wrong here, Kanishka. I think I might have edited too much out, but joined the founding team of a venture-backed audio technology startup called Aviate Audio. In 2018, he also took a fractional CMO position at another venture-backed startup called Jekka in 2019. After graduating from UB with a media and business degree in 2019, Kanishka founded Yamu Media. It's a digital marketing company that focuses on leveraging scalable formulas to help businesses dominate their market. In the year 2020, in spite of a pandemic, he experienced the honor of being able to found and scale three not-for-profit organizations: Grow Buffalo Business, which is an altruistic business support organization that grew from 60 to 1,800 members in less than a year; Dinner on the House, of which I'm also a part of, an organization that hosted events that raised money to support frontline workers; and a Sri Lankan community development fund that was used to provide aid and relief to 300 people in a village for 2 months, and build a home for a homeless family, and built a school for 150 kids in an impoverished village. Kanishka has done all of this and is also under 30 years old. I'm super jealous, but without further ado, I give you guys Kanishka Wanninayaka. Go ahead, Kanishka, it's all yours.
Thanks for the intro, Matt. That was a lot. I need to make that shorter.
No, it's all necessary. It all should be in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me here. I'm super pumped to kind of talk to. I know a lot of these faces, so I want to try to get into this and kind of do a Q&A session as much as answer all the questions you guys have about marketing. To get started, if I could have everyone just put in their industries in the chat, like the kind of so I can kind of cater the presentation a little bit, that would be awesome. Thank you. Sweet. Cool. I'm going to share my screen. Are you seeing my screen? Yeah? Awesome. Cool. And feel free to stop me and ask questions at any point. And Matt, maybe you could just just let me know. So the ideal outcome for the end of today's presentation is having these 4 questions answered for you guys, to get a good understanding of your own marketing formula, a good understanding of what a marketing funnel is, how to build one, how to conduct competitor research, and then how to map, track, and forecast campaigns that you decide to build for your business. So we're going to start with the marketing formula. I've talked about this a lot before, but it's a really basic formula. It's your traffic source times your conversion factor, which gives you your result, right? So in a day-to-day, like a B2B business as networkers, your traffic source is probably word of mouth. And that word of mouth traffic source could be divided into different categories. You could have intros, referrals, and through networking. And these different subcategories have different levels of quality associated with it. If you get a referral, they're probably a lot stronger than it would be through an intro or networking. Now, what determines the quality of the leads or the output from this formula is the quality of your sales call. So your sales script, your call to action, your demo, the quality of your salespersons, things like that. So in a nutshell, what we're trying to identify in your marketing formula is what are your variables and how can we influence them, right? So now take that to a digital platform. It looks a little bit like this. So you have your traffic source as your website traffic source, and then the quality of the website is the conversion factor. Now, your website traffic source could be anything. It could be Facebook, it could be Google search, it could be paid advertising, and it could be word of mouth, right? And based on where your traffic source is coming from, the quality of the traffic will change, similar to the word of mouth thing. Now, in terms of the quality of a website, based on your traffic source, the things that could convert your traffic into high quality output is a clear call to action, a strong offer, the clarity of your vision, clarity of your product, reviews, testimonials, price, all kinds of things. So this is in a nutshell what that formula looks like. And this compounds and grows quite aggressively. Here, let me show you an example. So, this is what your traffic source probably looks like: word of mouth, lead, meeting, purchase. But you can add another category and have word of mouth to website to lead to purchase. So you could make this assumption that the people that go through website is a higher qualified lead, simply because they've been nurtured more. And this step of nurturing can be, you can keep adding more and more steps to that and expand and compound your formula. So you can make a LinkedIn post that leads to your website, that leads to a lead, and then they're not ready to convert into a meeting, but they can take a survey and then think about it and then come back. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to identify what is the overall net sum of the traffic available that's interested in my product or service, and then what do I have in place to guide them along the lines towards my end outcome. But yeah, in a nutshell, so that's the formula. Now that formula leads into a marketing funnel, right? So the funnel looks like this. Maybe you guys have heard these terms before, but you have the top of funnel, middle of funnel, and the bottom of funnel. So the top of the funnel is your awareness stage. So even at that, even within that formula, you have subsections. So at the awareness stage, your audience isn't necessarily ready to convert. They're just trying to understand you and understand your business. At the bottom of the funnel is when they make a decision. So based on where they are at the funnel, you need different value propositions and different things to move them along those lines. So, based on this, you have to decide, knowing what your formula is, you have to decide, how does my formula fit into this funnel? Are all the categories that are important to me taken care of? And do I understand what it takes to convert people from different stages to another stage? Now, this is in a nutshell. I'm trying to get through this quickly, but if you guys have any questions, please put it in the chat. but the way you move people through different stages in the funnel, there's around 6 steps that I categorize them under. Is you have to identify the target market, your initial contact point, the messaging that converts them from different steps, the value proposition that you have, how you present that value proposition, and then how you negotiate the transition from a stage to another stage. Now, if you go back here, now, there's, when you look at the channels that you have to move through this funnel, you have to start thinking about what these are kind of the 5 categories that I think about when I look at a channel within these funnels for my formula. Is, what is the volume? Well, how much does it cost? What's my cost per acquisition? What type of audience am I getting? What is the quality of the audience? Where are they in their own nurture journey? And how many, what kind of effort and resources do I have to deploy or have access to have them move through this different stages in the funnel? Now, if I could get a little bit more specific with some of the tools that we would use, at the top of the funnel, you would run maybe a search engine campaign on Google or Facebook or YouTube or anything like that, and you get a ton of people at the awareness stage, but they are not necessarily ready to make a decision, but they're the type of people, and the thing that you can influence is the type of people they are. So you can influence their demographic, their purchase behavior, purchase history, things like that. So at that point, you can decide who you want to enter into to the top of your funnel, and then you start nurturing them through different types of I would say steps to get them down into that sales process, right? Here's an example of different types of offers you can use at these different stages. So at an awareness stage, you're just looking for people to understand your brand and understand what you're doing. You want them to know you and have you like top of mind throughout their day. So you could send them blogs, newsletters, you could send them a video of an interview you've done, things like that. Nothing with a strong call to action, just to kind of validate your existence in their life. And then at the middle of the funnel, you might send more things catered towards your actual product and offering and like how that affects them. So at that point, you might be talking about some case studies and testimonials and demo videos and things like that. And then the purchase stage is finally when you say, hey, you've seen a blog, you've thought about us, you've seen what we do, you've thought about how it affects you. And then now here is an offer for you to come try it out. All right. That's when you can give, based on what you have, again, resources that you can leverage. You could do a free consultation. You can give a free product. You could do a live demo, discounts, all that kind of stuff. So that being said, your formula fits inside your funnel. You got to think about what you have access to, what that formula looks like, and then you got to figure out where that fits in your funnel. Now, then you get to expand and experiment, right? So, at base level, you have an LinkedIn post, Instagram post, Facebook post that leads to a website. They turn into a lead and follow through it that way. But you could add some more layers to your funnel where, people can go into an opt-in page and then move into the website and then become a lead. But while that's happening, they're also being simultaneously retargeted on LinkedIn or Instagram while they're also getting the Google ads, right? So there's this like multi-channel approach that you can take, but only once you understand why these channels are impacting your formula. And the way you determine how these channels impact your formula is, so right here. So, I've narrowed it down to the channels that I'm comfortable playing around in. There's definitely a ton of other channels out there, and the same concept still applies to most channels. But I separate channels based on intent, right? So SEO, search engine optimization, Google ads, and email marketing. Those channels have high intent. So people are going and searching saying, hey, I want digital marketing services. Where can I find digital marketing service near me? How do I do this? So there's the intent level changes based on the search term. So a high intent search term would be something along the lines of digital marketing near me, versus low intent would be how to do digital marketing. So somebody that is kind of earlier in that journey, that's kind of thinking about it, would have that. But that low intent on these channels are still significantly higher than any type of intent on these channels, because on these channels there's no intent, right? There's no intent at all. They exist, and you can target people based on who they are as opposed to what they want. Now, there's pros and cons to both different sides. What's up, Matt?
I meant to do the hand raise and I did the clapping emoji. But so Eric Ensminger asks, how do you recommend using those channels to qualify the leads?
Cool. That's a good question. So I think right here. So your high intent lead, like if you're looking for lead generation using some of these channels, it depends on your product and your service, right? Now, when you're using these channels right here, Google or SEO, you're doing a bidding war. You're bidding against other people that want the same keyword. So that means that every click that you get is a competition against somebody else to get that click. So from this funnel, Google and SEO is a bottom of funnel strategy. It's not top of funnel, it's not middle, because there are naturally through the channel itself, Google itself is a bottom of funnel channel. Now Facebook or Instagram or anything else, they're top of funnel. That means that they have no clue that you exist and they have no idea they need you. Now that's a pro if you're like a startup or like a business that doesn't necessarily have an immediate need kind of product, right? So you can nurture people with a story and videos and brand awareness and things like that to get them to build that loyalty and move them down towards that decision stage and make a purchase. While at the bottom of the funnel, like, you know, if you go on Google, you can have people based on, like, they have super high intent. Now, this comes down to a cost-based question in terms of how to qualify people. On average, if I was to run the same a campaign on Facebook and Google for the same business, my cost per click on the top of the funnel on Facebook would probably be like 30 cents or 40 cents, while on Google it might be $3 or $4. So intent costs money. So it's less volume when you pursue intent, but that's where you have to balance out your equation and figure out, you know, would I rather have 1,000 people with a lot of intent, or would I rather have 10,000 people with average intent? So at that point, you're deciding, is my story and my message strong enough to convert a larger volume of cheaper clicks? Or is my need of the product so significant, it doesn't matter, and just the offer itself is enough for them to make a purchase? And do you have the budget to outbid your competition? That's kind of a roundabout way to answer that question. But so this actually leads to like the third thing. So that kind of decision, I wouldn't guess or make assumptions on, especially on Google and SEO. I would always just use the tools that exist. So I have a tool deck, which I'll send to you guys at the end of this, but I use something called SpyFu. And this tells me exactly, so this is a virtual learning software that is quite popular. And when I search on SpyFu, it tells me exactly what keywords they're bidding on for their SEO. And then it also tells me what they're bidding on for their paid advertising. So they're spending $958 a month on their paid advertising, and they're bidding on these keywords, right? Now, in these keywords, educational app for kids is more expensive than student engagement. That's probably because this has higher intent to commit to a decision than student engagement. Now, based on this, I'm also aware of who else is competing in my market space for those keywords. So if, for example, the the cost per click is $1.47 and there's nobody bidding against it, I could get it down to a cent because I have no competition. Now, usually that's never the case because if there's no intent, there's no competition. It just kind of balances out that way. But to make that decision of, are you going to use Google Ads to qualify your leads, or are you going to use, sorry about that. Are you going to use Google Ads, or are you going to use Facebook or YouTube? The way you'd make that decision is based on the cost and the intent, and then the resources you have available. So if you're going to go on that Facebook ad journey or YouTube, it's a huge lift in terms of branding, and it's a huge lift in terms of quality of content and things like that. But in Google, you could just go in there and say, hey, 25% discount off my product. So, you know, there's pros and cons to using different platforms. Sorry, let me slow down. Any questions?
I have to note that Kanishka lives in a very safe area because he literally lives next door to like emergency services.
Yeah, I think I'm known for the sirens that go by.
So the question, actually I have a question, and this may be somehow kind of almost marketing your services, but if you end up and you're bidding and you're at $1.47 for keyword clicks, if somebody's not actively managing that SEO, are you going to continue to pay $1.47 even if it could be had for cheaper? Does somebody have to keep constantly managing that to keep an eye on that?
You would yeah, you would have to manage it constantly. I mean, it depends if you're what I try to do is I try to find keywords that my competition isn't paying attention to that have intent. So even if I if I don't manage it for a while, it's not going to make a difference. But if there's a large competitor that comes out of nowhere and sees that I'm not really paying attention, they can outbid me on all my keywords. And then you'd kind of go back to zero. So you'd want to consistently keep outbidding people on the keywords that you have available. And there's fun little strategies you can use to get cheap keywords. You know, instead of, you know, you could say marketing near me is a high volume keyword that you want, but I could spell marketing wrong and target marketing near me without an A, and nobody's going to think about that. And that is going to be a super cheap click with lots of volume, or sorry, lots of intent.
Do you have a formula or an idea of what a profitability point is per click? I guess it would always depend on the I guess the industry that you're in, but when a click becomes too expensive, when you shouldn't bother bidding on it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the search volume. It depends on the lifetime value of the prospect. Depends on the pipeline. What I try to do is if there's one takeaway that I can give people is, you know, don't start from scratch because people have done it before. Use some tool like this. Go to search California. Like what's the marketing company in Los Angeles doing? What are they bidding at? What does that competition look like? There's no way people in Buffalo are doing it at that rate. You start there, take that campaign and try to break it apart, put it here, and then you'll see where that threshold is. For your clicks, and you know, you can see that it depends on your time frame as well. Like if you want really quick return on investment today, tomorrow, you would bid faster and higher, while if you are willing to kind of wait longer, you would be more strategic and bid against things that people are not paying attention to, and then slowly win on those categories and making it harder for other people to catch up. But yeah, there's different strategies. So there's not like there's no answer that kind of fits all formulas, but the concept is kind of the same, as you're just paying attention to what your competition is bidding at, and then what can you do to outbid them, and what are the resources you have available to outbid them. Like if you have a strong content engine, if you are a company that's capable of creating a lot of strong content, I would always recommend using YouTube and Facebook, because not lots of companies, like most companies, aren't capable of doing that. They just don't have that creative ability. Even the larger companies, you'd be surprised, they'd spend, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars on Google ads, but they wouldn't touch Facebook because it's more complicated to maneuver. That's usually, like, you know, especially if you're a smaller business trying to get into a new space, Facebook ads is usually a better place, because if not, you're bidding against money. You're bidding against people that have more money, and if they see you spending a couple of grand, they say, okay, I'm going to spend $4,000 now. You're going to just keep bidding that. It's going to be a numbers game at some point, assuming that they have, like, if you know, if there's a really solid marketing team backing them, it would just, you know, what I do isn't unique, I don't think. You know, I think if you're capable, if you're a good marketing person, you know how to do this stuff. So it would come back down to that bidding.
The question that I just was texted, and whoever sent me this text, I don't know who you are. I don't have your cell phone number saved, but the question is, do you see SEO becoming more or less important as we go forward?
So I actually had a slide for that. Here. So I had my recommendations for what channels to use as a business, as a B2B business. So the direct answer to that is no. SEO is probably the most important thing you'll do as a business. It is just, it's how you create permanent status for your business on the internet, because Google is the #1 channel. I mean, you could do search engine on Bing and Yahoo and things like that, but if you're on Google, you know, if people have intent in searching for you, I think, was it 99% of people don't leave the first page on Google, and 70% of people click the top 3 people on page 1. And the volume for those pages are insane, like, you know, especially with high intent. So the thing about SEO is it's a long-term strategy. It takes a significant amount of time to get you on page 1. You need to slowly and organically grow. You can't throw money at it and get you there quicker. It's not possible. You have to give it time. You know, you have to write blogs, you have to write articles, you have to get featured on different sites, and there's a lot of different tactics of how to do that, but it does take a long amount of time. But when it does get there, you will get more volume out of SEO than any of these other platforms. You know, more return on investment, because it doesn't, once you get there, it doesn't cost much to stay there. It just costs to keep growing. So it's just overall dollar spent, if you're looking at a 2-year, 1-year campaign, always go for SEO. Now, you know, the decisions that you make for your the channel that you use depends on the testing period that your resources allow you for. So if you have your, you know, based on your budget, your scrappiness, whatever it is, like whoever you have to support you, that's where you would decide on these short-term and mid-term strategies. So I'm just gonna quickly go through this, and hopefully that'll answer some of those questions as well. I always recommend B2B people to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator to get business. It's super effective if you do it right. It's quick results, but it's not scalable, right? Because LinkedIn gives you a limit. I think you can independently reach out to 1,000 people in a month. When the numbers get converted down into different nurture categories, you're left with like 5 phone calls, 10 phone calls a month, which is solid as a small business, but it's not scalable because LinkedIn naturally just puts that blocker on it. Google Ads is like another short-term strategy. You can get your solutions by just simply, I wouldn't even, you don't even need to test too much. You can just go into this softwares like SpyFu and just search what your competition is doing and just decide, can I outbid them? You know, it's basically quite simple. And if anybody actually, you know, has a business that's competing on Google, like you could put it in chat, and I can do a quick keyword search and analysis for your business if I have any brave volunteers.
Lindsay, I know you have a question. I wasn't volunteering you for this search, but I didn't know you have a question.
We can hold on my question. He kind of touched on it, but we'll come back to it. Thank you.
Does anybody want to be the guinea pig for this test on SpyFu? Can we look at one of my competitors maybe?
Do it.
Look up. No, I feel bad doing this on the internet and it's being recorded. Never mind.
I'll go if no one has one. I'm just curious. Like, type in like management skills or management training or something like that.
Is there a company that you can think of? But we could do that as well. So
you could do that. You could put like Dale Carnegie or something.
So let's put more intent behind this.
Okay. I'm selfishly using this for my own gain.
That's what you got to do. So management skills consultant.
Yeah, that's
right?
fine.
So you could see, so manager training.
Yeah, because I have found that my industry is tricky with SEO.
So this is paid advertising. So this isn't SEO. We're doing a keyword research. The paid, you have quite high cost per click. That means that, you know, the people bidding are spending lots of money on these specific keywords. I think, what was do you have like anybody who's a competitor in mind? That'll be probably the best way to.
So it's not really a competitor, but a lot of companies will send their managers or people to like a Dale Carnegie course.
What's the website called?
I'm not sure. It's probably just like dalecarnegie.com or something.
It is. It's dalecarnegie.com. DALECARNEGIE.com. And it comes in several different languages.
Yeah. And again, I'm not comparing myself to a Dale Carnegie at all. I'm just curious about what it's showing.
They're ranking for a ton of keywords. Time management training, leadership training, sales training. These are hard. So these are high intent, like one or two, word keywords that are hard to rank for. So they've probably been doing this for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you could probably check your, they're spending around $10,000 a month in Google Ads, which is not a lot for what kind of size company they are. So this is an interesting keyword that they're targeting a book. So this is, which I would also assume is an experiment, because they haven't spent a lot on it. So it's probably a new experiment where they're trying to target people based on subcategories that they might or might not be interested in.
Yeah.
So Lindsay, I think a great idea would be for you to bid like a slightly higher amount for how to win friends and influence people. And instead of bringing up Dale Carnegie, the actual author of the book, it would bring up you. That would be awesome.
How cool would that be?
Yeah, so we've I do those kind of things all the time. So when there's a not gonna name the company, but there's a company that we did SEO for, paid advertising on Google for, and they had 3 primary competitors, and the keywords that we're bidding were the competitor's website name. So when people search the competitor's website name, you would get their company on the top of the page, and you'd steal a lot of their traffic.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And you know, that's why you got to bid for your own website name, but not everyone thinks about that. So that, you know, this is one of the strategies to do that, is to use Google to find out what people are doing. And this helps you determine, in terms of that funnel that we talked about, in terms of the funnel, like what are they doing in this decision stage? What does that intent look like? What does that cost? Now, the same thing can be said about competition on Facebook or YouTube or anything like that. So I use this thing called Facebook Ads Library. When I search company names, it tells me what ads they're running. And it also shows me what these are 4 ad sets going to the same audience with minor tweaks and differences within each other. So I can tell here, based on this, that they're running awareness campaigns that lead to an offer, right? So right here, this is an offer, so only $120. So they're talking about the actual product. So this is probably their awareness campaign. This is probably their middle of funnel campaign, and this is their purchase campaign. So they're layering the campaigns that they're running to nurture people from, I don't know what this is, I don't know why it matters to me, all the way to here, buy the thing. And this is also like spread across time. So you would spend a lot of money getting people to see and be aware of your product in month 1. And then they'll talk about it with your friends. You make it easy for them to share. You know, there's different things like that you do. But once that conversation's been had for a month, then you look at the people that have watched your video for, let's say, 85% of the time, like, you know, the timestamp is 85%. So whoever's watched the video for 85% of the time are qualified as high intent individuals and are pushed into the second layer of the funnel. The thing is, we want the least amount of people to get to purchase as possible, because we don't want to spend money on, because purchase, you know, so purchase, you know, bottom of funnel clicks are expensive, regardless whether it's on Google, Facebook, or anything. If you have a bottom of funnel click, it is expensive. So you don't want to waste your money. So you want to use that awareness funnel to weed out as many negative people as possible. So once you identify what those people look like, you can put it into Google's and Facebook's algorithm and say, hey, look at this purchase behavior. Look at this person's characteristics on the internet. Here's their IP. I don't want anybody like that. And it'll cross-populate and like find a million people that looks exactly like those people that you don't like, and make sure they don't enter your funnel. So over time, what happens is that your funnel just gets more and more profitable. And that's also kind of leads back to, you know, this testing period that I talked about. With a Facebook or YouTube campaign, the testing period is longer. But once you get the formula, once Facebook actually figures it out, because you're playing, you know, I always consider myself as the client or customer of Facebook. So they want to treat me well. They want to give me the clients that I want. They want to give me the sales, B2C or B2B, the way I want. So I need to provide them the information they need to build the formula to support the growth of my company. So what I need to do is, over time, segment the amount of campaigns that I run, and then make it very clear to Facebook saying, this is what winning conditions look like. So the closer you get to, if I run 4 or 5 test campaigns with the same winning condition, what Facebook will do is start mapping what are the common denominators across these 5 test campaigns, and put them into one bunch and say, this is what your ideal campaign looks like. But that does take a couple months to do. And I think, you know, if you're a business that, again, has the resources to do that testing for that long period of time, you're looking at an infinitely scalable formula. Because as soon as Facebook figures it out and gives you that formula, it's just about putting more money down and making sure nobody outbids you, or, you know, competition doesn't come in and disrupt your market. But yeah, so I know this is like a you know, full circle question, but, you know, SEO would be that long-term solution. While your short-term solution would probably be LinkedIn or Google Ads, while your mid-term solution would be Facebook or YouTube. Email marketing is one of the most powerful bottom of funnel and post bottom of funnel things. So advocacy, right? So you have here, once you hit bottom of funnel, you have brand evangelists. So these are the people that have made a purchase or have learned something from you. Now they want to tell everybody and their friends. You want to support that. So if the goal is to identify what your average cost per acquisition for a prospect or a sale is. So if, let's say that your product value is $1,000 and then you spend $300 acquiring one customer through this funnel. And any friend that they share this to, any repeat purchase halves your cost per acquisition. It just keeps going down beyond that because there's no cost to email. Once you've acquired the email, they're in your funnel, in your pipeline, and you should be finding ways to nurture them and put them in different buckets. So some people want to be reminded to buy again and again every month. Other people want to be reminded on their birthdays. Other people want it to not be reminded at all and just want newsletters to keep up with your brand. So like identifying the same process of testing to see where does my audience move into naturally, what are they like being a part of, and then building those things within your funnel so that you disperse that value and decrease your cost per acquisition. So your goal is at every endpoint is to increase the quality of an acquisition and decrease the cost of that acquisition. So this, the other thing, we were talking about competitors, just want to touch on this quite briefly, is you can leverage the marketing that your competition is doing so that you don't have to spend much. So the easiest way to increase your budget is by using your competitor's budget. So if I have a competitor who's running an awesome awareness campaign, advocating for my product and its service, they're quite findable, they have a good reputation, but they haven't added that last bottom of funnel step to move the people along into a conversion, I can jump in and leverage what they've done and use that to take the people that they've built awareness on and then move them into my funnel, right? And it works the other way around. So if you can do strong competitor analysis, which is why I gave you guys those tools, and I have a toolkit here. There's ads library on Google and Facebook, the SpyFu, and there's a few other things. But if you can use those tools to go do a quick competitor analysis and identify what are the campaigns that your competition is doing and draw out that formula for your competition and think about, where they are in their journey. So, to think that a company like Nearpod, so this is I would say one of the biggest virtual learning platforms that a lot of schools use. And I use this example because we have a client who's competing against them. For a multi-million-dollar business, for them to be only spending $1,000 a month there's so much room for us to go in and just leverage this, because they haven't thought about it. They haven't, people haven't, unless you're a really large company, you haven't put up guards against people that know how to leverage these things. So if there are people, they're crushing it, I think, on SEO. Yeah, so they're doing quite well on SEO, but they're not doing well on Google Ads. So I could go in here and leverage the keywords that they're doing for SEO to win on Google Ads. So what I'm trying to get at in the end is, if you know who your competition is, and if maybe not even competition, people you look up to. Like I look at marketing companies in LA, New York, Paris, like places that I know that to compete in and stay on top of, you have to do all the work possible. I just go research and see what they're doing and just take that formula and apply it to my business.
I have a great case study example of that. If I can have like 10 seconds.
Go for it.
So I was looking at my previous position to, previous position. I've had a lot of jobs. To change over the CRM the company was using. So I started very high level and searching for CRMs. And then, so when on the very high level of CRM search, I was finding a bunch of information from a bunch of different companies and going through the websites, clicking on the websites, finding out all the pieces that I wanted and the things that I wanted the actual CRM to do. And I was basically researching through all these big, huge name CRMs. And then when I got almost to the point of ready to buy one of the bigger ones, I did a search for the individual pieces that I was looking for it to do. Because a lot of these CRMs do everything, and I want to do specific things. And then when I did a search for very specific pieces that I wanted to do, I was getting different search results from smaller companies that did that really well, and they were also exponentially cheaper. And I ended up picking this CRM. I was a Salvatore. It's called Pipedrive. When I was originally going to spend $1,500 a month on HubSpot, I was spending $14.99 per user on Pipedrive because it did everything we wanted them to do. Just thought it was an interesting example. So like they got in with those specific keyword searches, apparently because I searched for specific keywords, and they ended up at the top of the list, and I clicked on them and found them, and I ended up setting myself, saving $1,000 a month.
If we do a quick search and I said HubSpot, I have HubSpot as the top category, Monday.com active campaign, and then HubSpot here. So HubSpot is kind of doing it right. But if I searched Asana, Monday.com is the #1 category, not Asana. So even on Asana's keyword, Monday is competing and winning against it. So it's something that everybody does, especially, but what is a lot of value for small businesses like us is nobody's doing it at this level. It's an easy win to do things like this. One of the other things that I wanted to cover.
Jill had a question. I'm sorry, Jill, I missed you.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, did Jill leave? That was awkward. Did I just call on Jill and she's not even here? Okay.
The other thing that I wanted to cover is tracking your campaign. So I use a software called Funnelytics. It is like $100 a month, but if you're really serious about building your marketing campaign, I would highly recommend it. So this software, I can go from scratch and create my actions, right? So my traffic source is from an ad, and the banner ad leads to a web page, and so on and so forth. And each journey is mapped, and I know how many leads or volume of traffic is moving through each step. I just need to link the URL and link the backend, put some code in the backend of those pages in the ad, and I'm able to track what that journey looks like. And what I'm going to show you right now looks complicated, but it's not. It's super, super simple. But then you can build a campaign this extensive, and you can map. So starts with Facebook ads at 3 different 5 different types of Facebook ads that goes to a sales page. In this ad, I'm testing a video ad, I'm testing a picture ad, I'm testing a newsletter, I'm testing bullet points, features list, things like that. So then I'm understanding, okay, 25% convert to this, 30% convert to that, 50% convert to this. So then I understand that I need to stop running some of these ads because they suck and the other ones are doing a lot better. So I'm going to do more of those. And then you move them onto that sales page. If they have high intent, they'll make the purchase right away. But if they don't, we can drip them off into an email list. If somebody's in an email list, I can retarget them with another ad. Like I know that you've opted into our email list, so now I know something about you. So that my ads now at this second level are a lot more targeted and catered to you. So less awareness and random stuff, and more, oh, I know that you were interested in this problem. Have you thought about this solution? Would be like this layer of ad campaign. And also, especially if you have an automated service offering, you'd be surprised if people might just want to buy more stuff. You're just not giving them the opportunity. So once an order is done, you push them through an upsell process. How about this and this and this and this, until they say no. And if they say no, they go back into that email list because they've already made that commitment and purchased. It's the same thing with, you could build a campaign all the way that runs, entry point on YouTube and conversion point on Facebook and intent point on Google with high volume traffic. So ideally, the easy way to get new traffic, like if we're talking about just getting enough traffic to fill one person's like calendar for sales, you'd probably just do it on LinkedIn, easiest way to do it. But if you're looking to scale an organization and do high volume sales, you would want to build your campaign all the way from awareness, through the different stages, top, middle, and bottom of that funnel. And over time, without fail, you will succeed, because that is the nature of the funnel. Like, you will always know why it's not working as long as you're tracking and measuring it. So you want to fail quickly and test fast so that you can measure that funnel. But yeah, I think I try to leave 10 minutes for questions, and I'm on time.
Does anybody have any additional questions for Kanishka? I know we covered some awesome stuff here. Also, Kanishka, I know you mentioned that you were going to provide us with the deck and the toolkit, I guess you called it, right?
Yeah.
With sort of a list of the things that we've looked at here.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull the toolkit in the chat, but it's also in the deck. Nope, that's not it. Here.
No, that's not it. Come on.
There you go.
You put Lindsay's competition up there in the chat.
The other thing that now we talked, if we go back to that formula in terms of conversion, there's traffic source, which is what we talked a lot about, how to nurture and move your traffic sources. But then there's also your website and how do you convert on the traffic that you do get. There's this, I'm sure you guys are aware of Google Analytics, really solid. But if you want something a little bit easier to navigate, there's this thing called Hotjar. It tracks the heat maps on your site. It tells you, it records what people do, how long their mouse hovers on different section on your site, what buttons they're clicking, at what rate, how fast they're reading, how many people actually scroll to the bottom of your page and all that. So you get to identify, okay, what's the point of having content that people aren't engaging with, which is a huge trap I think a lot of us fall into, is like, you do things because you think you're supposed to, which is fine. That's a good way to start. And then you map it and see what actually happens. So if you have people not interacting with 25% of the content on your site, and that those 25% of the content on your site is what matters to you, and that's your calls to action, those are the things you want them to engage with, then you got to think about, how do I move things around so that the 25% of content that makes a difference and impact in my sales are pushed forward more.
I was just playing around on Hotjar while you were talking about it. Anybody have any questions for Kanishka before we send you guys off to your jobs or whatever it is that you do with the rest of your Friday?
I have a question if no one else has one. Kanishka, would you say, if you're strictly B2B, that it still makes sense to be present on like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or can you get away with SEO, Google, and LinkedIn?
You could definitely get away with one channel. It depends on the size of your company. Yeah, easily you can get away with one channel. I think, and it's also how you define presence. So if you're networking, for example, like, then that presence does matter because people can go look at you and validate you. But if you're just running ads to your product directly, then your face doesn't matter for that conversion. Right? So like, it just comes down to, does your face matter to make a difference? And if it does, then do it. If it doesn't, then you don't have to. And it's also what you've pre-built yourself. So whatever you've done till this day, you've probably, I've seen you around everywhere. So you have a lot of social capital to some degree. So for you to stop doing that, you would need to balance it out with more product-based advertising and marketing instead of people-based advertising and marketing.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you. This was fantastic. I learned so much. My brain's going to explode.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I love talking about this stuff. And I was just talking to Matt and earlier about marketing, and I think there's this idea that marketing is a lot more complex than it is, and it's not. It's super simple. We're all customers of Google and Facebook, and they want us to win. You just have to pay attention to what they're saying. Yeah, and I think a lot of people fall into the trap of doing too much. You don't need to do a ton of things. You just need to track what you're doing and make sure every week it's a little better than last week.
That's a really good, just sort of metaphor / advice for life in general.
And and as a business, me personally, I have a framework for decision making, which is, can it be solved by process? Can it be solved by can it be solved by software? Can it be solved by process? Can it be solved by people? So if it can be solved by software, I'm not going to bother with people or process. So people is the last thing that I go for. So same thing can be said for your marketing. If you can download a $20 app that does something for you, that helps your growth, like do that before you hire an agency, and use that to test your thesis or whatever, your assumptions, and then scale it, based on the time you have available.
That's awesome. You're giving away a lot of your special sauce, and we appreciate that.
It's not special sauce. It's just sauce.
Well, it's delicious. They keep going down that metaphor rabbit hole. So anybody else have any other questions before I actually probably do all beef patty special sauce on a sesame seed bun? All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. If you haven't already, make sure you register for our marketing panel coming up on March the 29th at 3 p.m. Just go to bnsme.org. Also, for those of you who are unaware, we're going back to some in-person opportunities as well, like people in a room at the same time. Like technically you can't touch them, but you could. So in April 16th, we're going to have a breakfast event for BNSME members, meet and greet, and then April the 26th, right, Gene? April the 26th, we're doing a really cool trivia fundraiser event for JA, for Junior Achievement. Courtney is still here. Cool, awesome. Courtney's going to help me run that. It's going to be a really fun kind of game show trivia thing, and also there'll be a bar, which is, the only reason I'm actually going. So, of course. So definitely check out bnsme.org for that stuff. If you're a member, awesome. If you're not a member, Kanishka, go ahead and join. We appreciate you guys. Thank you, Kanishka. Awesome presentation. And the recording of this will be available in the next day or so, right, Gene?
Yes.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're brilliant. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
See you
Bye,
guys.
everyone. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
I'm gonna stop the recording.
Yep.